and a rebuild team? Because there's a big differences of understanding the two. So go ahead, Sheldon, take it away for us and break that down.
All right. So for me, I have the standards up right here. For rebuilding teams, I would consider Houston Rockets, Oklahoma City Thunder, San Antonio Spurs, Utah Jazz. That's four, and then the fifth, I would consider the Pistons, but they're on the rise. I would consider them in the rebuilding process, but I would consider say a weak team. I would consider probably actually I probably put the Kings in rebuilding, but they've been rebuilding for years. So I would put them in that category. But weak team, I would probably put say the Hornets, the maybe the Knicks. I would kind of put them in the category. I would actually probably put the Lakers because the Lakers really aren't a rebuild team. Their roster is just weak. And with rebuilding teams, if you look at their rosters, they really don't have a lot of good players. They just have probably just a whole bunch of young players. And then if you go deep into their teams, they have a whole bunch of draft picks. Probably like we just saw last week, Donovan Mitchell gets traded and the Jazz pick up like five extra first round picks, and they are tied with the Thunder with 13 first round picks, just like how back in the day when the Nets and the Celtics made a trade, this big trade for KG Paul Pierce. The Celtics got a whole bunch of draft picks, and it's just all about just getting as many draft picks as you can, so you can be able to get that potential superstar in the draft, or you can use them picks to trade for a superstar because some of these rebuilding teams, nobody's going to come to them. So they just try to communicate, like, just get a lot of picks. But yeah, I would consider those kind of like the rebuilding teams. I also forgot the Indiana Pacers. They're in a full blown rebuild. They are in a rebuild. So I consider them in the rebuilding stage.
So
Uh, I'll go ahead.
I'm sorry, Charles. I want to ask Charles, like, what do you expect from like if a team is weak, how many wins should like the average fan expect for that team to get a season?
Well, see, when I think of weak teams and rebuild teams, like weak teams, there are those teams that's like fighting for the play-in. You know what I mean? So like those 10, 11, 12, around that range. And then like the rebuild teams, like Sheldon said, the Indiana Pacers, people that are they gotta rebuild their team through the draft. So
Many wins you expect like a weak team to get? Like, let's say a play-in team, the Wizards, the Knicks. How many wins should the average fan expect that team to get?
less than 30, to be
Less
honest
than
with you.
30.
Yeah, because they're not like they probably have like a some decent amount of players or some okay players, but they're not really doing anything. For instance, I consider the Knicks a weak team. Well, not considering the new people that they picked up, but their last year team, it was a weak team. They should have been better, but they didn't play better. They were a weak team. Or teams like the Magic. The Magic, they're a weak team, but they can potentially fight for a playing spot. So yeah, less than 30 wins for sure.
The
I don't know
Magic
about
had
that. I
the
don't know
Magic
about that.
had 22 wins and the Pistons had
I
23
feel
wins.
I feel like if you're that's the rebuilding teams that get less than 30 wins. The Wizards, they probably had like 30 some wins. I feel like they should at least get
35.
above that. At least get that or close to 40, just like the Knicks. At least get to 30, 40 wins. Only the teams that get below 30 are the rebuilding teams. So I expect Jazz to get 20 some, Pacers to get 20 some, Magic, they'll probably get in the high 20s. Uh Pistons, I think they'll get to close to 30, but not exactly. I expect those teams to get at least in the 20s, but not like Wizards, Hornets. They're gonna get at least 30 because they got way more talent. It's just some of them rebuild teams, they either have no talent or just nobody. They just don't got nobody, honestly. So and just a whole bunch of weak players, but they might have say one or two good players and everybody else just not good. But that's just
Like
what I expect.
the Pistons, I don't consider the Pistons a weak team because they have players like K, Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duran, Marvin Beck. Like
They're
they
more
got
talented.
pieces. but they still got pieces. Like a rebuild team is like the Spurs, where they got Blake Wesley, Josh Primo, and all these other unproven players. Like to me, that's a rebuild team. Or
I
like
mean,
the
who's
Pacers.
on
The
the
Pacers
Pistons
are
that
a
are
rebuild
proven?
team. The
Who on the
Pacers are
Pistons is proven? Who on the Pistons are
okay.
proven?
I
Bro,
expect
one
big things from
year?
K. I expect big
Come on,
things
bro.
from Jaden Ivory.
Okay,
They're all star
okay,
talent. What are you talking about?
okay.
That's
The
like when
Wizards are
LaMelo
better than the
first came in
Pistons,
the
bro.
league.
The
That's
Wizards
like
are
when
better than.
LaMelo first came in the league. People expected big things from LaMelo. So it's the same thing with Cade and Jaden
But
Ivey.
it's a
Melo had a lot of
but
hype on him,
he's in his third year now. I think he's
but he
probably
played
proven
really
himself.
good. He played really good his rookie year. His sophomore year, he played okay, and he proved himself last year.
Bro, that team is in the high 20s, bro. They're in the high 20s. They're not better than the Wizards. They're not better than the Knicks. They're
But
probably
your
not
record
even better
doesn't.
than the Hornets.
I agree with you,
I'm
but
going
your
off
record
their
doesn't
roster.
necessarily.
I'm just going off the rosters.
Your
They're
record
not better
doesn't
than them.
necessarily. Your record doesn't necessarily prove that you're a rebuild team. Like if you got pieces around, like a rebuild team is if you have nothing. Like the Pistons can literally make one or two, three moves, and they could be a really good team. That's a
What
Will
weak.
they
move?
That's a
be
What
in the
weak
moves could
team
they
in
lottery?
my
make?
case.
Will they be in the top 14 next year in the lottery? They won't get in the top 5, but will they be in the top 14 next year? If you're
Yeah,
in the lottery, that means you're not good.
they'll probably be
That
like the
means you're
low
not
lottery.
good. That means you're really not
They're
that
pro-
good.
the Hornets. The Hornets were in
Unless
the
you have
lottery.
a good team.
The
Unless you
Hornets
have a
last year
good
were in
team.
the lottery, but you considered them a weak team. So it doesn't really matter if that team is in a lottery or not. If they're in a low lottery, they don't mean that they're a rebuild team.
Okay.
The
The
Pistons
Hornets.
are
So
kind of
if
still
that's
in a
if that's
rebuild.
the case, the Hornets are a rebuild team. But you said the Hornets are weak, but they were in the lottery this upcoming draft.
The Hornets, they're kind of weak, but they're like above average. They're not above average. They're
Right.
average.
So I'm
They're weak
saying
and average. The Pistons
Wait,
are the
let
weak.
me get
Pistons are
so
weak.
I like it. I like it. It's a little spicy between y'all right now. I'm gonna say though, like Charles, you got a good point though. Like weak teams, a weak team, they have talented players, but it's not really a fleshed out roster. But a rebuild team is really they have a lot of, like Sheldon said, they have a lot of draft picks. They're looking towards the future. They aren't
Mm-hmm.
looking towards winning right now,
Right.
and they have a bunch of unproven players. But it's like with the weak teams, it's like they have talented players, and then it's like they don't prove themselves on the court. Like you get a Jeremy Grant when he was with the Pistons, and it was like you knew that wasn't gonna be good. And it was like, did he prove himself? That he proved that he could still do what he always does, but it wasn't enough for them to be winning. So it's like unproven players can like they got the chance to break out on weak teams, but they'll never be enough for a team to be as good as they need to be. That's just what I'm thinking, what I'm getting from it. Lottery picks, unproven players is one of the big differences for like a weak team and a rebuild team.
The Pistons
Right.
they're gonna still be weak. They'll probably win maybe 20. I say 28 games.
You want to write it down? You want to make a prediction?
I mean, we got it recorded, so it's gonna be 28. I'm gonna just say 28 wins, maybe even 30, but they're still gonna be weak. They're most likely still gonna be in a lottery. The same with the Hornets. We got to see what happens with Miles Bridges. They're probably gonna be weaker, but if he comes back, they're gonna be average.
They did lose
That's
Montreal too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he didn't really make a big difference. Me personally, he doesn't do anything. He just gets 12 points and he's just an energizer player. He really doesn't.
You don't think he make a big difference trying to fight everybody every 3 games?
I mean, does he get the team hyped up and ready to go? Yeah, I feel like it, but it's like he's just an average, undersized big. That's really all he is. Undersized, average big. And he's good to be a backup, but he can't start for me.
Yeah, I see that too.
That's all I'm saying. But Pistons, Cade showed like he good, but it's like I can't say he proven to the league off the 1 year. That's all I'm saying. He can't prove.
I'm not saying he solidified himself. You still gotta prove yourself.
That's basically what you just said, though.
But I'm saying I
said who is proven on here?
Cade Cunningham. He's proven himself to me that he can play in the league. I think Jaden Ivey can play in the league and be very good.
How? He ain't
That's
played
what
in
I'm
the league
saying.
yet. How he proved?
From
How
what
he
he
proved
from
it?
what he is, certain players you can see like, okay, they're gonna be good. Like for instance, Ben Simmons, he dominated summer league. We knew Ben Simmons was gonna be good. Cal Kuzma and Lonzo, they played
But what
really
if K
well in
has a
summer league.
sophomore
They
slump
were
though?
good.
What if K has a sophomore slump? Then what?
But
Then
I
what happens?
still, a lot of players have a sophomore slump. That doesn't mean anything. I still trust him. I still believe in him. Just because he had a sophomore slump,
I'm not gonna
it matters what he does after that.
I'm not gonna hop on the bandwagon just after 1 year. I mean, I think he's good.
But
I think he'll be good, but it's like I'm not gonna be like, I believe in you. No, I'm
I
not doing
think
all that.
I believe in
I'm
him.
not doing it. I'm not doing all that just yet. Like he
To
gotta
each their
show,
own.
he gotta play good, bro. If he can lead his team to 30 wins, then you prove it to me that you can lead your team to more victories than you had last year. But if they still the same, you ain't proving nothing. You ain't
I
proving
think they
nothing.
are. They got a
So
better roster. They got better players. I think they're going to win around 30, 31 games
so
next year.
last year they won. They were 23-59.
Yep.
And this year you're saying they win about
30.
somewhere about 7 to 8
7
more
more
games.
games. Yep.
That's not that much better.
It's not. I mean, it's an
They still
improvement.
going to be weak. Yeah, it's an
It's
improvement.
improvement, but they're
Yeah.
still gonna be weak.
Yeah,
Like
for
you
sure.
can
They
name a
still in
whole
that
bunch of
20. They still in
teams.
that 20-win game range.
Honestly, all the teams that
Nah,
were
I give
in
them
front of
30.
them last year are better than them. All them teams is better than them. Whatever the standings are you're looking at, they were better than them. They're every team besides the ones below them. So I'm gonna say the
So
Pacers and the Magic, they are not better. Those two teams, they are better than.
they were ranked 14th. So when it go through 11 through 15, you got the Knicks,
They're
you
not
got
better
the
than them.
Wizards,
Not
you
better
got
than
the
them.
Pacers, you
No, they better
got
than
the
the Pacers.
Pistons, and you got the Magic.
They better
This is
than
going
the
to
Magic.
change next season.
They better than the Magic.
They're
Depending
better
on
than the
what
Magic. The
Charlotte
Magic
does.
has the better roster, though.
They better than Magic. Magic just
Nah, they
got
better
too
than
many.
Magic.
They got too many big players and not
Too
a
many
lot of
wings.
experience. At least the Pistons have some experience type players. The Magic. I mean, really, their
But
most experienced player, I guess you could say, off the top of my head, it's probably Terrence Ross. Yeah, I mean that's it. And Gary Harris. That
You
okay,
will
said
be
they
your
best player?
no
okay.
You said
experience.
most
Experience.
experienced.
I said most
The
experience.
roster of the Magic versus the roster of the Pistons. And we're seeing a league that's trying to get back to like bigger players on the court. So it's like, yeah, the Pistons may have the more talented players, but it's like it looks like the Magic has the more fleshed out roster. It looks like they have the bigger players. Like I'm gonna say Cade is probably the best player between both teams. But it's like, I don't know, that Pablo dude, he might be really, really good. That's what the hype is,
Yeah.
right? He might be really good, right?
Nah, he is.
He was the number one pick. So I don't know. It to me, the Magic are they got a good problem. They don't know what their starting five is gonna be. I believe in Wendell. Mo Bamba, he finally showing flashes that he can be as good as he was. I like Markel folks. Then you still got Jalen Snugs and Frank Wisner. Like those people, they roster. And then when you look at Detroit, like who you got? You got Sadiq Bey, you got Isaiah Stewart, you got K,
You got Jalen
Jaden
Ivey.
Ivey, Kelly Olynyk, Jaden Ivey.
A rookie?
Yeah,
Yep.
you're a rookie.
Okay.
They
we got the number one draft pick.
They got two decent rookies on their team. Two decent.
Yeah.
I'm just saying the roster roster for the Magic, when it comes to weak teams, it seemed like they got a little bit more firepower than these weaker teams.
I mean, I feel like the Pistons still gonna be in front of them though. I think Cade, like I said, Cade is gonna be good. But I'm just not gonna be like, you proved to me yet. I'm not gonna say that just yet. I'm not gonna say that yet. But they do have some good players, though. I feel like the Magic have a lot of good some young players. I think they have good young players, but the Pistons have more veterans that are actually decent. Like they picked up Alec Burks. He's a decent veteran. Nerlens Noel, he's a decent veteran. They picked up some decent players that have NBA experience. The Magic, they're young, bro. They have a lot of young players, but they do have a problem, like you said. But we're gonna see them at the bottom, and they're probably gonna get in the top 3 pick next year, as usual. And they're gonna but then next season